I'm now pleased to be joined by our next chat, Mike Ballardie, CEO of Slinger Bag. Slinger Bag is listed on the OTC and trades under the ticker SLBG. During our discussion today, Mike will be making forward-looking statements. Please refer to the company's SEC filings and website for the latest information. Thank you, Mike, for joining us today.
Hi, Janine. Thanks for having me. You mentioned in the introduction that Slinger is a product for all ball sports, and with our initial focus on tennis. The reason that we're looking at tennis is that Joe Calfer, our founder, is an avid tennis player. Joe's problem was that he couldn't find regular tennis partners. He tried his club's traditional tennis ball machine, found it very difficult and cumbersome to use, and ultimately had a eureka moment where he came up with the concept of putting a tennis ball machine inside a wheeled trolley bag. And so what Slinger does is solves a problem for the sport itself by making available a product that can be your 24/7 tennis partner. But it also solves a problem for the actual tennis player with a product that is lightweight, transportable, versatile, and affordable. So my background is that I've spent a lifetime involved in sports, and particularly in tennis, as a player, a coach, and most recently for quite a while as the CEO of Prince, one of the largest tennis companies. When I first saw Slinger, my tennis gut told me that it was something that could make a difference in the tennis world. So I brought on board a couple of people, a CFO and a COO. And between those two guys and myself, I think we've got more than 100 years experience in the sports and particularly in the tennis industry. The tennis playing community is around the world is 100 million players. But the most important number within that 100 million player number is the number of what we call avid tennis players. It's these 20 million players who spend, on average, 80% of all the revenues that get spent in tennis. In the world's biggest tennis market, which is the United States, it's important for Slinger Bag to sell as a direct-to-consumer brand. Of the 20 million avid tennis players that I mentioned before, 4 million of those tennis players are in the US. Around the rest of the world, we're going to employ the same go-to-market strategy, meaning we will be a direct-to-consumer brand, but we're going to do it through third-party distributors. And those distributors are going to be independent, highly respected tennis companies who have a great depth of experience themselves in dealing with the tennis market in their region. We've already managed to line up half a dozen or so of those companies in different countries. So our short-term goal, our 5-year goal, if you like, is to reach $50 million. Our first-year goal is $10 million. And I just want to put into perspective, $50 million, what that really means. So I talked about the 20 million tennis players in the world that we're after. $50 million would mean reaching half of 1% of all of those players, and over a 5-year period. So I think that's a highly attainable goal, and honestly, our financials should turn out to be conservative. In terms of gross profit, because we're structured primarily as a direct-to-consumer company, and we're keeping our headcount low and to a minimal level, I'm expecting our gross profit percentage to be in the mid to high 40s.
Can you give us a sense why investors should invest in Slinger Bag today?
We're already a proven success through the Kickstarter campaign and through the reactions that we're seeing, from the market today. Everybody that ever sees a Slinger that plays tennis wants to get one. Certainly when they find out that it starts at $550, which is, 50% pretty much of any of our main competitors out there in the market. We have a patented product, unique. There isn't anything in the market that comes close to competing with Slinger. And so therefore, we have an opportunity to disrupt, to create a new market. And lastly, around the world, I'm selecting some of the most highly experienced distributors to represent the brand. So the first thing that we're doing, Janine, is that we are looking already at one of the fastest growing sports in the United States, which is pickleball. So we've already started the process of modifying the current tennis launcher into pickleball. We will then also be looking at padel tennis, which is a very important sport around the world outside of the US, but also coming to the US. And then lastly, we are adapting the current tennis launcher for another sport of tennis, which is called soft tennis, which is only played in Japan. But again, it's a very big sport in Japan. Longer term, meaning once we've proved our success in the tennis world, we already have some concepts which we're on the drawing board for baseball, for softball, and for a sport that is maybe even bigger than those sports called cricket, which is not played in the United States, but is huge in the rest of the world. And so we're looking at launcher options for those sports to get, again, within the framework of being transportable, affordable, and versatile.